In section 2.4, we're working on solving multi-step equations. So again, we're just elaborating. We started with one-step equations and two-step equations. Now we're going a little further into things. Our key vocabulary are like terms, which we've already talked about, reciprocal, which we've already talked about, and the distributive property, which I believe you're probably familiar with. So let's take a look at what these problems look like. So you'll notice as you look at this problem, I've got some like terms here. So I'm going to want to start off by combining my like terms. So if I go ahead and do that, I'll have 35 is equal to negative 5. And then 2 positive 2 minus 7, that's going to be minus 5x. Then at this point, my advice to you, you see I've got my variable is now negative. I think it's easiest to go ahead and take the variable and let's move it to the other side. So if I add 5x to either side, I'll have 35 plus 5x is equal to negative 5. Now if I subtract 35 from either side, I'll have 5x is equal to negative 5 minus 35 is negative 40. And if I divide by 5, x will be equal to negative 8. Now let's take a look at another problem. This is where the distributive property comes in, and you see here I've got this number 2 times a binomial. And if I'm going to use the distributive property, I have to multiply the 2 times the m, but I also have to multiply it times the 1. So when I go ahead and distribute the 2, I'll get 5m plus 2 times m is 2m, and 2 times 1 is 2, equals 23. Now I'm going to combine like terms. 5m plus 2m is 7m, plus 2 is equal to 23. I'm going to subtract the 2. 7m is equal to 21. And divide by 3, so m will be equal to 21 divided by 7, which is 3. And I'm done. One last example. Now we've got this reciprocal in here. And now whenever we have a distribution situation, now I'd want to distribute the reciprocal potentially, but you always want to think, is it easier to distribute the reciprocal or this fraction here, or multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of it? So if you look in the previous problem, we distributed the 2. I want to always think, do I want to distribute or do I want to divide by this item? And the same, dividing by something is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. In this case, it's a lot easier to multiply by 5/2. So when I do that on both sides, I then won't have to distribute because this will become 1. 2 goes into negative 14 and leaves negative 7. 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. And then the 9 minus 2b doesn't have to have anything distributed into it. Again, I would add 2b to either side. And then I'd add 35 to either side and divide by 2. And b is equal to 22. But what you always want to think of is when you have this situation where you look at this item, I have two choices. I can distribute it into the binomial, or I can divide both sides of my equation by it, or multiply both sides of my equation by its reciprocal, which is the same thing as division. Okay, and finally, looking at this in a word problem context, if I'm planning a scavenger hunt for 21 people, I plan that I'm going to have 5 teams. One camper from each team will be a recorder and the rest will be searchers. How many searchers will each team have? Okay, so if we start taking a look at this, we go, well, I'm going to have 5 teams, right? And each team is going to have a searcher and a recorder and a number of searchers. So that means I'll have 5 searchers, 5 recorders, and the rest are searchers. So my total number of campers is 21. And then on the other side, I know I'm going to have 5 searchers, and then my number of, I keep saying searchers, 5 recorders plus my number of searchers. So if we want to know how many searchers will each team have, that gets a little complicated, right? First off, it's not going to come out even, is it? But I could figure out what they're going to average. So this probably then is not the equation I want to use. So if I have 5 teams, and they're each going to have 1 recorder plus X searchers, and the total has to equal 21 people. Now I have a choice of distributing or dividing. I think I'm going to go ahead and distribute. 5 plus 5x is equal to 21. If I go ahead and subtract the 5, I'll have 16 is equal to 5x. So x will be equal to 16 divided by 5, or that's going to be 3 1/5 searchers. Now, it's important that we think about this. If I really want to answer the question, is it possible for any team to have 1/5 of a searcher? It's not. So when I really answer the question, 4 teams have 3, and 1 team has 4. Okay, that'll be my 12 searchers, and 4 searchers would be 16 searchers. That's really the way this works out. Even though I mathematically solved it for 3 1/5, it's not possible to have 1/5 of a human on a team. So you always want to think about interpreting your results in order to answer the question. Okay, and that's it for section 2.4.